So one of the common problems that humans have is antibody overreactions, such as allergies and anaphylactic shock. So an allergy is an excessive immune response to the antigen. And when it's an allergic reaction, the antigen is called an allergen. Your antibodies are produced in large numbers, and actually some normal cells may be destroyed. And the antigen-antibody complex may trigger inflammation. So there's an initial exposure to the allergen, and B cells are produced that make a large amount of IgE. This immediate hypersensitivity is a very rapid, severe response to that allergen. For example, allergic rhinitis, such as hay fever. And this happens due to inflammation of the nasal membrane. So the hypersensitivity reaction may be limited to the body surface, or it can be systemic. So an allergen can create this systemic response called anaphylactic shock. And here, what happens is the circulating allergen stimulates histamine release from mast cells. Mast cells are all over the body in our connective tissue. And this can cause, what the histamine does, is causes the capillaries to vasodilate, and so fluids leak out of the blood. The plasma leaks out. And this can cause a huge drop in blood pressure, leading to circulatory collapse. This is called anaphylactic shock. So let's look at what happens when we develop an allergy. The allergen enters the body, a macrophage phagocytizes it, and there is it presents, antigenic determination. It presents it on the cell, and it activates T cells. A B cell is sensitized to it and produces a plasma cell, which produces antibodies. So the normal invader of anything coming into the body is going to cause this response. But in the case of an allergen, it produces IgE antibodies. And these antibodies are going to be located on mast cells. So we have a lot of mast cells in our nasal cavity, in the mucous membrane of that nasal cavity. So that we breathe in that allergen the next time, and it binds to the antibodies that are on the mast cells, causing massive amounts of histamine and other chemicals that cause our allergic reaction. Itching, swelling. Well, the systemic one is itching, swelling, difficulty breathing. But the localized one would be blowing your nose and dripping, that kind of thing. What immune system components trigger allergies? The IgE antibodies and mast cells. So some people take allergy shots. They're given small amounts of the allergen and hopefully develop IgG, so that you are having increasing numbers of IgG, that antibody, in your bloodstream. So when when you're next exposed to that allergen, the hope is that the IgG causes a clumping reaction to that allergen instead of having it bind to the IgE that's on the mast cells. Immune disorders can be excessive or misdirected immune response, such as autoimmune disorders, graft rejection, and allergies. Can be inadequate immune response, like an immunodeficiency disease. And then there are age-related reductions in immune activity, and that's why older people are more sensitive to coronavirus and die more often. So in an autoimmune disorder, the immune system attacks your own cells. It affects about 5% of adults in North America and Europe. Many are caused by similarities in protein. So the protein associated with measles, Epstein-Barr virus, influenza, and other viruses has the same amino acid sequence as myelin proteins. Antibodies targeting these pathogens may also attack the myelin sheath, and it's the most likely mechanism for the disease multiple sclerosis. More autoimmune disease, thyroiditis. Itis is inflammation. So inflammation of the thyroid, inflammation from the release of autoantibodies against thyroglobulin. Rheumatoid arthritis affects the joints. Type 1 antibodies, those autoantibodies attack the insulin-producing cells in the pancreatic islets. A graft rejection occurs after an organ transplant. The recipient's T cells are activated by the donated tissue, and they attack and destroy these foreign cells. Transplant success is improved by immunosuppression, that is, reducing the sensitivity of the immune system. Like cyclosporin A suppresses the immune response by inhibiting helper T cells while not affecting suppressor T cells. It is the helper T cell that HIV infects for the most part. Immunodeficiency diseases result from you may be born with problems with your lymphoid tissue. You may be infected with a virus that depresses immune function, like HIV, or and treatment with or exposure to immunosuppressant agents. Acquired immune deficiency syndrome, or AIDS, is the most common immunodeficiency disease caused by human immunodeficiency virus, HIV. The virus binds to CD4 proteins, a receptor, and infects helper T cells. The infected cells make the new virus. The infected helper T cells is destroyed by the virus or the immune defenses. Suppressor T cells are not affected by the virus. So what happens is, because you're destroying your helper Ts, over time more and more are destroyed, so you become more and more vulnerable to opportunistic infections, such as lung infections, cancers. HIV is spread with contact by body fluids, and it infects 33 million people worldwide, with 2 million deaths per year. Here we have the green HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, budding from an infected T cell. And then age-related reductions. Well, the immune system is less effective. The thymus shrinks. You have fewer hormones from the thymus. The T cells are less responsive. B cells are less responsive. So elderly are. It's strongly suggested that they have vaccinations against flu and pneumonia. And also, elderly will have more cancer because we have a surveillance by our immune system, and they're getting rid of cancer cells. But as you age and your immune system becomes less effective, the cancers can remain. What term refers to a disorder in which the immune system mistakenly attacks normal body cells? Autoimmune. What is the pathogen that causes AIDS? A virus. Which of the following is not an autoimmune disorder? Anaphylaxis. What immune cells are infected by HIV? Helper T lymphocytes. Which of the following is not an organ of the lymphatic system? Bone marrow. Which of the following is not made of lymphoid nodules? The spleen. Where do lymphatic capillaries end or begin? Where do they start their journey? Interstitial spaces. Cells primarily responsible for immunity are B cells and T cells. Which of the following is not one type of non-specific defense? Antibodies. Antibodies are very specific. They're part of specific immunity. The movement of lymph is caused largely by muscular activities. True. What drains lymph from the body and is named for the regions they drain? Lymphatic trunks. What is the most abundant antibody? IgG. What is the first antibody to arrive? IgM. Which is not a symptom of inflammation? Infection. What is a chemical barrier? Stomach acid. What are the most active phagocytes? Both neutrophils and monocytes. Don't get confused with the term monocytes. When monocytes leave the bloodstream, they become macrophages. So basically, a monocyte is the same thing as a macrophage. Lymph is blank that has entered a lymphatic capillary. Tissue fluid. What is the structure of a lymphatic vessel most similar to? A vein. Remember, it has valves.